Broadcasting from the KMF Collective Studio, it's time for the Keep Moving Forward podcast. Join us every week as we dive into the stories of remarkable current and former athletes that have transitioned into the real world. Now here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the 209th episode of the Keep Moving Forward podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. Today in the KMF Collective Studio, I have with me host of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast, CEO of Thunderbro, founder of Own Your Eating, and CrossFit Level 4 coach, Jason Ackerman. How are you doing, Jason?
Great. When you put all of my life's work into a 10-second introduction, it makes me sound very important.
Well, you are. You've clearly achieved a lot and done a lot. So yes, you are very important.
Well, you know, I'm proud to be your 209th episode. It's a very special, very lucrative number to be a part of.
Well, thank you, Jason. Really, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us today.
I'm excited. I'm excited to chat.
Me too. So, Jason, to just kind of get to know you a little bit, your background, I wonder, where did you grow up and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics?
I grew up in a couple of different areas, but primarily Westchester, New York. So a little town called Peekskill. If you've watched the TV show Facts of Life, I don't know if you remember that show.
I never.
Do you remember that?
I didn't watch that show, but yeah, I know. I'm actually from New Jersey, so I'm relatively familiar with New York too.
Okay, so yeah, you know, we're about an hour outside of Manhattan. My parents are divorced, so I grew up primarily in Peekskill and then spent weekends and some other time in Poughkeepsie, New York. Okay.
And so with primarily growing up in New York, did you have certain activities, certain sports that you really took a likening to early on, or did sports really not come into your life until later on?
No, I was your typical, you know, little league. My parents, smart, never put me into basketball or football. You know, I was very small. I didn't even think about it until that moment just now. I'm like, hey, that was a smart move on their part. I wasn't going anywhere and on the basketball courts. But, you know, it was around middle school where I found the sport of wrestling. And that's really what shaped me the most. You know, I did the standard, you know, every kid does these soccer, little league type thing. But it wasn't until I found wrestling that I was like, this is the sport for me.
What was it about wrestling that really did that for you?
Well, for one, you know, size really didn't matter because you're being matched up against opponents that are the same size as you. And in fact, I talk about this a lot these days. You know, I'm only 5'3". I didn't realize how small I was until a couple months ago. And I'm 41 years old. You know, it never dawned on me. And I think it was because in wrestling, you're just like, okay, my opponent is the same size as me. There are other people this size in the world. This is normal.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know, funny, you know, I tend to go on tangents, so feel free to reel me back in.
No, go for it.
There was like a couple months ago this viral video of this bagel boss guy. I don't know if you saw it. It was actually, it might have been New Jersey that he was in, but he's, you know, he was like 4'11", I think, and he's yelling at people. He's just an angry person, and he's like, I'm small, and I've never been treated the right way, and blah, 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 and I'm like, I'm only 4 inches from that dude. Like, why am I not more angry? And I just didn't realize. Like, it's one of those things where you're just blissfully ignorant. So anyway, you know, I found wrestling, and what I loved about it is you controlled your own destiny. You know, it didn't matter. You know, it's a team sport. People forget that about wrestling. You know, there is a team component to it. But at the end of the day, your team can lose, and if you pinned your opponent in 10 seconds, you feel good about yourself. So I like that, and I just liked this idea of you got to work hard and you got to grind and you got to show up and get your butt kicked every day, and if you do that, magically, you get better.
I love that. I mean, it's about putting in the work. And like you said, you were unaware of if your height was a detriment at all, because it wasn't. It was not. I mean, in that sport, it was just an equal playing field. And you just said you had to show up and put in the work. And that was what was going to elicit the success. That was what you had to do. So putting in that hard work and then carrying that into every area of your life since then. And so once you fell in love with that sport of wrestling, just loving that hard work and drive, did you have aspirations to go on to the next level? level, playing high school, playing college, or did you just really were focused on that one moment of just wanting to wrestle for as long as you could?
You know, as hard as I worked, I never became that good at it. You know, I achieved some good things. I won some tournaments. You know, I was an above average wrestler, but I was also very good at tennis. I played tennis as well. So I had the desire to play tennis in college, but I actually wound up wrestling for a little bit of time in college. They wound up getting rid of the program at the school I was in. So, which I wasn't that upset about. Wrestling is a brutal sport, and when you're smaller like I am, there's a lot of weight cutting involved. So I was a bit ready to move on. I was burned out. I was tired. I was ready to eat like a normal teenager, you know, not be overly focused on the scale, but I loved it. And, you know, I'm 41 years old, and I continue to train 5 times a week on the mats. I go into jiu-jitsu, you know, which is a very similar sport to wrestling, but it's a big part of my life to this day.
Yeah, I mean, and that's incredible that you were able to, like you said, you got a little burned out on it, but then it's still such an integral part of your life, knowing how great of a fitness routine it can be getting into jiu-jitsu. And so then, Jason, like you said, you kind of got burnt out on it, but looking to college, playing tennis then was really something that you had set your sights on. So you played tennis for a little bit and wrestled, and then the wrestling program was taken away. Did you end up not continuing with tennis either? What kind of happened with your athletic journey once you got into college?
Yeah, it kind of went on hold for 4 years.
Yeah.
Turns out partying is more fun than competing, you know, on the mats. And, you know, spent 4 years enjoying myself and, you know, drinking with my friends, and luckily somehow managed to graduate and you know, went on and earned a master's degree as well. But yeah, you know, it took a 4-year hiatus from most athletics other than some weightlifting.
And so then once you took that hiatus, really dove in with college, like you said, managed to graduate, and then went on to get your master's degree. So all the while, what field of study were you pursuing, and then following up with that master's degree?
I went to college with the ambition and desire to become a doctor. So I was in the pre-med track. Now, to become a doctor, you have to take organic chemistry. And that's what stopped me from becoming a doctor. I was like, nope, not going to do that. My roommate at the time was also on the same track. He is now a doctor. And, you know, he understood that stuff. My brain just did not grasp it. And I was like, this is not for me. I was enjoying psychology classes. Got my degree with a major in psychology, and then went on to get a master's in it as well.
So with that, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do with that degree, or was it just, okay, I want to shift tracks, organic chemistry is not for me, but you enjoyed psychology. So did you have an idea of what you maybe wanted to pursue post-grad?
No idea. Absolutely no idea. And I think, you know, this is not what this podcast is about, but there's definitely got to be some changes, and it's probably a lot on parental influence. There was no one was telling me like, hey, by the way, you can get this great degree and have no career because you have very limited options, you know, with a psych degree or even a master's. You know, I was doing it. I was like, hey, I'm just going to keep going to school because more degrees is probably better. And then when it boiled down to it, it was, well, I can probably be a teacher, maybe a school psychologist. The options are very limited, and none of them were appealing to me, which is why I just continued to work at gyms.
Why did you work at gyms then? Was it just from that love of wrestling, love of being around fitness, so all the while pursuing your psychology degree, kind of having this realization of, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do next, so then you just defaulted into what you loved, what you kind of knew in coaching?
Yeah, my first job, other than being a busboy and a waiter at a local restaurant, was a trainer at a gym. I joined the gym after my freshman year in high school. My mom signed me up because I was small and I wanted to get stronger for wrestling, and it became a really big passion. Obviously, something that continues to this day, but it was just, hey, I can always keep working at gyms, and while the pay wasn't great, I enjoyed it. I loved it, and it was something I was really. It was just something I always loved doing.
And so, I mean, making that shift, though, from being an athlete then to being a coach, being a trainer, kind of helping guide people, how did you mentally navigate that transition? So going from having that mental side of being an athlete, driving and perfecting yourself, and then turning it over into helping people and guide their lives. How did you make that shift?
I think I didn't even realize it from a young age that was important to me, just helping others, be it on the wrestling mats with my teammates. But once I started training people at the local gym, Club Fit, it's called, in Jefferson Valley, New York, I just really enjoyed helping others. And it was just something that from day one I was attached to. And that didn't mean I wasn't training myself. It was still always important to me. I still would work out. I still, I did bodybuilding competitions. I competed on the jiu-jitsu mat. So it wasn't that I had to pick one or the other. It was just I really enjoyed this idea of, hey, I can have a nice impact for a long time on other people's lives. And I still hear from people that I trained 5 years ago and even 20 years ago. And it's one of those things, where you remember your trainers, you remember the people that had an influence on your life. And when you train people, it becomes really an integral part of their life, because you're talking about nutrition and you're impacting something they do every day. And it's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so for you, Jason, I mean, like you said, you still have people reaching out to you, telling you the impact that you've had on their lives so many years later. So was there maybe someone in your life, a coach or a trainer or a mentor in the athletic space or not, that really guided you down this direction, and maybe without you even knowing it at the time?
Well, the first one that I always point to is my wrestling coach, Coach Ortega. He was my earth science teacher freshman year in high school. And literally, I walk into class, he eyeballed me, and he's like, "You're joining the wrestling team." And I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "We need a 91-pounder." And those that wrestle understand that lingo. But for me at the time, I was like, "What does that mean?" And it means we need someone that weighs 91 pounds or less. And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't weigh that, so I can do that." Yeah. And so that was a big influence, just because I don't think I would be doing what I do currently had I not stepped on those mats. So that was a really big influence for me. And then beyond that, at the gym, a bunch of the older trainers, first of all, I say older, I'm 15, 16. They were probably like 22 years old. But to me, they're like, old. I'm like, these old people. But they really took me in under their wing, and a couple of them were training for bodybuilding competitions and encouraged me to do that. And I would train with them. And again, it's these little small interactions and relationships that I had no idea were sculpting me for the next 25 years.
Right. And I mean, I think too, it's hard to really recognize that at the time. It's only when you reflect back on the journey that you've taken that you realize, wow, these people had such an incredible impact on me in ways that you don't even realize until you're on a new path or following down this new journey. And so Jason, then, so you're finishing up your master's degree in psychology, really not knowing what you're going to do next, and still loving this, being in fitness and coaching. So then how did that, did you complete your master's degree in psychology?
Yes, so I have my master's degree in psychology from St. Rose, which is in Albany, New York.
Man. And I mean, that's awesome. So like you said, you kept going after all this education and building up these credentials, but trying to figure out and navigate what to do next. So then how did that set you on the path, this entrepreneurial path that you have found yourself on now today? So post-grad, post-masters, how did you kind of end up on this entrepreneurship journey?
Kind of a happy accident. You know, like I said, and like you asked, like, what was I going to do with that psych degree? And turns out there's minimal options. And I just kept working at gyms, from about, 2000 to 2007-ish, while I'm getting my degree. Just kept working at Gold's Gym and a couple other local private gyms. And really, I was just settled in. I'm like, this is what I do. I train people, I coach yoga, other classes. And I was prepared to do that really forever. And I was getting a little burned out around 2006, and it was around that time where I'm like, okay, I need to get a typical job. I need to get something where I can punch in, punch out, have some benefits, collect a normal paycheck. And it was right at that moment that CrossFit came into my life.
And how did it come into your life? How did you become aware of it?
So I remember vividly on a Saturday afternoon at jiu-jitsu practice, my buddy Chad had a Muscle and Fitness magazine, and he knew I was a trainer, and we talked about different methods and different ways to train people and different ways to work out, and he opens this Muscle and Fitness magazine to an article about Chuck Liddell, who at the time was one of the UFC's most prominent fighters, light heavyweight champion, and he trained with a guy named John Ackerman, who owned one of the original CrossFit affiliates called CrossPit. So he had a MMA gym called The Pit, where literally like a pit, like in the middle of nowhere, San Luis Obispo, California, where people would come in and train MMA, but then also work out with the CrossFit methodology. And it was slowly picking up steam, like not nearly where it is today, but people were obviously finding out about it. Chad hands me this magazine, tells me, hey, I should check this thing out. I go home, hop on the internet, Google CrossFit like a lot of people did back in the day, or maybe, just typed in the URL and stumble upon this outdated, really, really for all, lackluster site, if you will. And I'm like, hey, this looks interesting. Let me give it a go. And then the next day I had my first CrossFit workout.
Man. So just discovering something, wanting to learn what it was about. So once you hit that first workout, what was the experience like for you, and what was it about CrossFit that really caught your attention and made you want to go all in this sport, in this industry?
It was a few things. It was very reminiscent of wrestling. So for those that competed on the wrestling mats, you hear that a lot. And whether it was wrestling or you just competed in high school and college and kind of like are a little lost after that. There's sure recreational leagues and intramural type stuff, but there's no fierce competition beyond that unless you take it to the next level, which 99% of the world doesn't get to do. So it was that idea of like, hey, I'm competing against these people online, and I'm also competing against myself, and it's also burning my lungs, like I've never felt other than being on the wrestling mats.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, at the time, this was really what sold it for me. Jiu-jitsu was small. It wasn't, this day and age, jiu-jitsu is like CrossFit. There's one on every corner. You can throw a rock and hit a jiu-jitsu school. But at the time, there wasn't. And the school I was going to only had classes twice a week. That Saturday class and a Tuesday class. And I was like, well, how am I going to get better at this thing without actually doing it? And I felt like CrossFit was training me for jiu-jitsu without actually being on the mats.
Wow, man. And so then did you have aspirations at that time to have a jiu-jitsu career, compete? And why was there, that drive to find something or kind of stumble upon something like in CrossFit that would really help you in that pursuit of jiu-jitsu or in your jiu-jitsu athleticism?
Well, I think anybody that just does jiu-jitsu or really any sport or hobby that you're passionate about, you just want to get better at it.
Right.
I always tell people the crazy thing about jiu-jitsu as a hobby is when you say you play a musical instrument and you don't practice the violin for a few weeks, no big deal. You hit a couple wrong notes. When you don't practice jiu-jitsu and you go back on the mats, you get choked. So
it's a little different.
It's like this, it's a little bit different, right? You might not be practicing, but your teammates are,
right? And
they're going to choke you out. So it's this sport and this hobby where if you don't try to get better, it's really terrible. It's a terrible experience. Yeah. So it was really important for me to get better at it, and something I still strive to do. And it was just filling that void. I think people love CrossFit because they get that competition filled. And that's what it was doing for me. Between the two of them, I really felt unstoppable.
I bet with all that incredible training. And then too, there's probably something to the fact that CrossFit was new. And it was, like you said, you felt that burning in your lungs. And it was just a new style of fitness, new type of working out that you realized really would help you with jiu-jitsu. And so Jason, then once you started that, you loved that workout and realizing how it could help you with jiu-jitsu, what then made you decide, okay, I want to start coaching or I want to open a box? How did that kind of set you on this trajectory for towards the Best Hour of Your Day podcast and everything that you've done in the CrossFit space?
Well, like I said, I was ready to leave it. I was done. Yeah. I was burned out. I didn't want to, be coaching, middle-aged women anymore, hearing about their lives and all the things going wrong. And basically, I was using my psych degree more than I was using my fitness experience. And when I found CrossFit, it made things more fun again. It wasn't just like, hey, let's do this set of 8 to 12 and rest for a minute, and I have to fill this empty dead air space and talk to you. Like that was the worst part about being a personal trainer, not counting to 12 a billion times a day, but hey, in between sets, I have to ask you about your life, even though I don't really care. So, and I'm joking a little bit, but I mean, man, there's only so many times you can listen to a woman complain about her husband, right?
Right.
And so I find CrossFit, I'm like, hey, there's no time to talk. You got to go. And I was implementing it with my clients one-on-one, and I started to read more and learn from the CrossFit Journal and seeing videos. I'm like, I can do 2 people in this hour. Wait, I can do 4 people in this hour. Wait, I can still charge the same, so I can make more money, work less, and have more fun. Sign me up.
Man. And so you started that. Did you start then with the implementing the training with the clients that you already had, or did you start working at a CrossFit box right away?
So this is 2007. There were no boxes.
There were no boxes yet. Right.
This was, me training my current clients, not all of them, because I didn't know enough about scaling at the time. So I wasn't going to have my, 70-year-old clients do CrossFit. Meanwhile, now we know you should.
Right.
But it was my younger clients, the more athletic ones. I would put them through workouts, and still I'm training them for an hour. So it often looked like, hey, let's do a CrossFit workout. Cool. Go grab water. Let's do another one. Cool. Let's do another. I'm filling up an hour with CrossFit. They're getting demolished. And that's when, I go take my first level 1 in the fall of 2007, learn a lot more. And that's when I thought to myself, okay, let's make this transition from training people one-on-one to opening your own space.
And so when you made that decision to open your own space, was it then, you couldn't affiliate yet, right? So that wasn't until 2008? Is that when? No.
So I was able to affiliate right then. So
okay.
They started affiliates probably around 2004 or 5. And there weren't many. I was one of the earliest,
Gotcha.
First 200 affiliates out there.
Wow.
And, there weren't seminars every weekend like there are these days all over the world. There was literally 1 seminar a weekend. And the closest that came to me, at the time I'm living in upstate New York, Albany, New York, the closest one to me was actually in Canada. I was in Toronto.
Wow.
So, I drive the 8 hours to Toronto for the weekend and get my level 1 and came back and opened the doors of Albany CrossFit.
Wow. So coming off of that weekend, then that level 1 weekend, opening Albany CrossFit, just kind of being invigorated and ready to go. What was that like for you? I mean, going from working in a gym space, training personal clients, and then getting lit up and loving CrossFit. So going from being a trainer to then being a business owner. What was that transition like, and how did you navigate it?
It was scary.
Yeah.
It was, this idea of, all right, I'm giving up. We didn't talk about it, but I have my book, Best Hour of Their Day, as well, right? I have the podcast and the book, and we talk about all of this in there. But, it was really this idea of, hey, you have to commit. You have to go all in. And, I was ready to quit the industry, but then I was like, nope, I'm going to dive head first. And if this thing works, it's going to be great. And if it doesn't, cool. I'll, fall back on my degree. But it was a scary time because I had to give up, my income that I was making for this potential income. And a lot of people go through that conundrum and this decision of, what do I do? I have money here, but there's this potential for more or more fun or more fulfillment over here. And I just said, I'm doing it. I got rid of a lot of the side jobs that I was doing, like coaching, spin, or kickboxing. I was doing everything out there, and said, I'm going to commit to really going full-time into this affiliate, Albany CrossFit, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there were so many things that you had to give up or move away from in that scary time, but in pursuit of something that could be so much better and so much greater than the current thing that you had.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people face that in any entrepreneurial endeavor, but or small business, and it's hard, but unless you are willing to go all in, I don't think you'll ever hit your potential.
I love that. I love the way you said that. And of course, as is in your story, once you went all in, I mean, the things that you created from this space are incredible. Like you said, the best hour of their day podcast. You're the Thunderbro and founder of Own Your Eating and becoming a level 4 coach. So just going down this whole journey. So from there, Jason, I mean, when you took that huge leap of faith in opening up your CrossFit box, how did it lead you then down this path of having these different companies, starting this podcast? What was the next steps in your journey?
I think just the idea of never being satisfied with where you are. So, I wound up opening 2 other affiliates after that one, and just kind of seeing like, what's next? What's the next evolution of this? Is it just having a brick and mortar, where you're ultimately limited by your space, your demographic, or is it, hey, I can take this online and impact the world? So obviously lots of other little things going on along the way, but really just, hey, how do I continue to grow? Because once I found CrossFit and opened, I realized this is what I was meant to do. I'm enjoying this. I love it. I mean, I always wanted to own a gym. I thought it would be your standard Globo gym with a pool and a sauna and all that, but turns out owning a small gym with less overhead is actually far more lucrative. And it was just like, okay, what can I do next? And even to this day, it's like, what's next? I think if the entrepreneurial bug bites you, if you will, it's a lifelong illness.
Man, I like that. I think it's true. I mean, like you said, it stems from that never being satisfied with where you are, knowing that there's something better that you can achieve, something better that you can provide your clients, your athletes, the people that you're serving. And if you have that servant heart, like you love helping others, which is what you do, then you're constantly in pursuit of that. How can I make their experience better? And so from there, Jason, what came first of all of the different entrepreneurial pursuits that you went down? Was it Thunderbro, Own Your Eating? Did you become a level 4 coach? Which one of those came first, and how did they kind of snowball into that next step for you?
So really what came next was my journey to the CrossFit seminar staff.
Okay. Yeah.
I took my level 1 in 2007, and from the moment I showed up to that seminar and listened to Coach Glassman and other CrossFit OGs and legends, I was like, I want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. And that was a long journey, with internships and growth and feedback, but that ultimately led me to taking my level 2, my level 3, and ultimately getting my level 4. But being a part of that staff is, one of the most prestigious things and highly touted things I've done in my entire life. So I'm really proud of that. And from there, opening and running multiple affiliates, and then the next thing I did was I wound up selling my affiliates. I wound up selling all 3 of my affiliates and starting the online business of Own Your Eating with my wife, and slowly transitioned to having these, like I said, brick and mortars to this online space, which, of course came about because of at the time that wasn't a possibility in 2007, or maybe it was. I just wasn't, I didn't have the foresight to think about that, but that was probably the next thing. I get on seminar staff. I can continue to grow as a CrossFit coach, travel the world teaching seminars, and I'm like, okay, what can I do so I don't have to be stuck in one space, one place for the rest of my life.
Right. And and it makes sense kind of shifting with the times and pursuing this incredible, illustrious dream of being on seminar staff and then achieving that, growing in the world of CrossFit specifically on this one track, and then realizing, okay, I can take some business online and start to appeal to more people, start to help and serve others. And so, Jason, why did you specifically choose Own Your Eating in this nutritional space? Was it just something over time that you saw was a huge need for people and you wanted to go online with it?
So really what that came from was, and if you get a lot of people that own boxes or coaches, they'll understand this. When you do that, oftentimes your own training, your own health, your own fitness falls to the side. Mm-hmm. And especially when you own 3. I was just busy. I was running around. And I woke up one day, looked in the mirror, and was like, I'm fat. and I was like, this can't be good for business, right? And not only is it not good for business, it's like it doesn't align with my values. My values, my top two are health and happiness. And to me, that means I can't be happy if I'm not healthy.
Yep.
And I wasn't, I wouldn't say I was unhealthy, but I would say I wasn't at my peak, and I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And I had run the gamut of diets, from paleo to zone to fasting to keto. I've tried everything. So one day I stumbled upon this idea of flexible eating, which is basically tracking your macros, if it fits your macros, etc. And I started doing it. I dove all in, 100%. This is kind of my mentality. I don't have I don't have a lot of room for gray in my life. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And the weight started to fall off, and people started to notice. And what are you doing? Can I do that? And it was one of those happy accidents where I'm like, all right, I can help you. And I help one person, then I help a second person, and then I'm helping so many people that I'm like, I need to charge you guys. And that really is how Own Your Eating came about. I wound up selling the gyms, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Well, I'll create this online business where I can educate people and help them improve their lives.
And so has Own Your Eating then, so like you said, it started organically. You were trying to better yourself and reflect the values that you preached. And then it started helping people and bringing it online. So is it online coaching? Is it guiding people through templates of how to best eat? And how does the Own Your Eating work?
We have, a whole lot of options out there. And what it started with was really just at the time, hey, I'm going to charge you. Here we get a phone call. I'm going to coach you. It got to the point that I had like 100 people texting me every morning.
Wow.
I was like, this is not sustainable.
Right.
I'm losing my mind. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to make these videos where, people can learn. I don't have to deal with them interacting every day, but they can watch a video and learn everything. And then I wrote a book about it. And then, we still have some coaching that goes on, but it was more this idea of, I don't have to be, again, kind of that pigeonhole mentality. I think, again, going back to that entrepreneurial spirit, the goal is always, hey, what can I do to maximize my time, leverage my time, and still grow this business? And that's where it came, to my wife and I made videos where, like I said, we're talking about it. I wound up writing a book, and I push people towards that because for me, I'd rather you not spend a lot of money and be able to learn how to do these things right. And also that way I can impact more people.
Right. So it's being able to cast a wider net and putting more things out there, videos, books that people have all of this access to. So like you said, just wanting to help people on their own fitness journeys. And so Jason, with you and your wife, like you said, going all in, wanting to help guide people and then learning along the way too, not to pigeonhole yourself. So get so gung-ho focused on that one goal, but to realize that there's different ways to approach it. And so attacking that with putting out your book and putting out those videos. So from there with Own Your Eating, did Thunderbro, was that a result of Own Your Eating in some way, or was it just another business that kind of developed?
So Thunderbro was not my business originally.
Okay.
I met the owner of Thunderbro years ago. His name's Dave Lipson. He's the founder of it. And I met him years ago also as part of the seminar staff. He was a longtime member. He's married to Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, that some of your listeners may know as a former CrossFit Games champion, which is, super impressive. She's also came in second at the teams last year. But I've known both of them for a long time. They were from the Northeast, and we've always stayed in contact. They were always friends. And this past year at the CrossFit Games, I told Dave, hey, I heard about Thunderbro. I want to try it. So I started trying it, and we stayed in contact. And he's like, hey, I need someone to help me grow this thing. And he reached out, and my wife and I took a trip from Florida, where we were living, to Boulder, Colorado, talked to them, and we all decided to team up. My wife is working with Camille on their company, Furrows Fitness, and I'm working with Dave on our company, Thunderbro. I call myself the CEO, which I am, but I'm also now part owner of the company.
Wow. And so what is the ultimate goal of Thunderbro?
The goal is just to help people achieve fitness without getting hurt and while enjoying fitness. You know, CrossFit's great. I still love it. I still think it's the best thing you can do to improve your overall fitness, especially as we define it in CrossFit. Your work capacity across broad time and modal domains. Basically, your ability to do anything and everything out there, regardless of how long it takes and regardless of what you have to do. Whether it's a 10-second endeavor or a 2-hour trail run, you can do it. Now, Thunderbro, our approach is a little different in that we want you to really not only get fitter, but also see that difference in the mirror. You know, and while if you do CrossFit, let's be real, you're going to look better naked. You're not maximizing that opportunity. So with Thunderbro, it's, hey, let's train smart, but also so you see that difference, you see those aesthetics. You know, we refer to it as wearing your fitness.
Okay. And so then is Thunderbro, is it geared towards maybe people who might be a little burnt out on CrossFit, or people who are training for bodybuilding shows, or something that requires more of an aesthetic look? Or do you have a specific target audience that you're looking for with Thunderbro?
Yeah, you really nailed it. You know, a big percentage of our people come from CrossFit, and whether that's just, hey, I want a little bit of a break, or I want something to supplement my training with, or I do want to switch gears and maybe show up on the bodybuilding stage one day. You know, those are the people that we get. We get people that, you know, maybe they've never done CrossFit, and it's a gateway to them because we do include a lot of functional fitness metcons in there, you know, just like a standard workout of the day. So we do have CrossFit-esque workouts in all of our programming, but it's really a wide net of people that, you know, or even just people, we get a lot of people that you go to, I think as CrossFitters, we forget there's a whole other world out there of people working out, and the majority of them have no idea what they're doing. CrossFit is so great in the fact that they educate people, and you go to a box and you actually learn. But at the Globo Gym, you still show up, like go to your Globo Gym, maybe not now while we're all worried about this virus, but go to the Globo Gym in a month when hopefully things start to clear up and you're like, what are these people doing? Like, what is that movement? And, you know, that's who we're trying to help. People that maybe they're intimidated by CrossFit, or maybe they can't afford to go to a CrossFit box, or maybe they're trying to do CrossFit at a Globo Gym, but do it, you can still learn and do it smarter at your typical gym.
Right. That's a very good point. So it's educating, or attempting to educate people who are, on one side of the spectrum or the other, trying to help guide them on whatever piece of their fitness journey that they're on. Yeah.
Our really big, you know, guiding principle in Thunderbro is education, and our goal is to educate people.
I love that. And so in pursuit of that education, Jason, I mean, two, it seems that's a path that you've gone down, one, with helping people, but then two, it's bridging that gap between something that they might not fully understand. So trying to help guide them, whether it's in their nutrition or their aesthetics, how to best work out. And then two, with Best Hour of Their Day, the podcast that you have, educating and helping coaches and box owners. So it seems like this is a trend in the pursuits that you're on with your entrepreneurship. And so how did then Best Hour of Their Day come about?
Yeah, I think you really, you know, figured me out in 30 minutes. You know, my goal is, you know, while I think my passion, like we talked about earlier, has always been helping others. And while originally that was through fitness, and it still obviously is, but really my passion for helping others is all about just helping them live a better life. And because of my principle of health first, it often manifests in, hey, I want to help you be a healthier person, which looks like, hey, what you eat and what you do at the gym. But really, it's also now expanding to, hey, it's how you run your own business, which is how Best Hour of Their Day started. My buddy Jason Fernandez and I, who is also on the CrossFit seminar staff, for probably about 2 years. You know, he lived in Virginia, I lived in New York and Florida. So we'd work together once a month, maybe not even, maybe quarterly. But we'd always talk about, hey, no one's really helping the box owners. You know, there are companies out there that are great, but maybe they focus on marketing, or maybe they focus on systems and protocols. And obviously, both of those things are vital to running a successful business. But no one said, hey, let's develop coaches. Let's help coaches get better. And that's where we really specialize. That's what we're good at, and that's what we enjoy doing. So that's where Best Hour of Their Day starts. Like you, was a podcast, and it was like, enough talk. Let's just hit record one day.
Yeah.
And we did. And, similar to Own Your Eating, similar to my CrossFit affiliate, I think the best small businesses and the best things just start from that desire to try something, and typically because it's what you care about and what you're passionate about. So we hit record, we threw it up on a podcast platform, and it took off. We went from let's just hit record to 200 episodes later.
Wow.
Not quite 209. We're not at 209 like you, but I think we're in the 180s right now.
Yeah.
I don't know when this comes out, but maybe we'll be at 200.
Yeah. You might be at that point. But and I love that. I think it kind of brings everything together, like you're saying, wanting to help the box owner. And so in a way, or not even in a way, before you're with all your other things, you're helping people directly in their own health pursuits, nutrition, fitness, all around. But then with Best Hour of Their Day, you're able to talk to coaches and box owners who are impacting the lives of other athletes, other people that you might not have been able to get in front of had you not been directing this podcast and this content directly at those coaches and box owners. So it's extending that arm even further than you had initially began.
Yeah, and it was the same principle with why I opened my affiliate, right? I can train one person and impact them in this hour, or I can have a 20-person class. And then it became develop my coaches so they can do it. And it's almost like a pyramid scheme, right? Like, hey, if I get you better, you can help other people, and then you can get other people to help other people, and all of a sudden, we're all selling shakes and whatnot. No, but I mean, that's really the principle of it. The more people I can impact, the more they can impact, and that's hopefully, one day, when I'm no longer here, that's what people will remember. This guy impacted my life in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so, Jason, with Best Hour of Their Day and just all of the other pursuits that you're getting after, with that whole aim of helping people, serving people, helping them become the best person that they can be, Best Hour of Their Day, like you said, it started as a podcast, but it's grown into a lot of other things too. So how has it what journey has it taken? How has it grown? And where do you hope it grows to become?
Well, like I said, I wrote a book, which was kind of happening simultaneously with the podcast. The book was just, people would ask me these questions over and over again, and I was like, I don't want to keep answering these same questions. So I was like, let me just write them down. And it was like, I'll just write a blog or something. And then I was like, wait, these are good. And I would share them with people. Like, these are really good. Do you have more? And eventually, 30 stories later, I had a book. We do online programming where, there's a ton of programming out there for the CrossFit affiliate, but there weren't any programs that were designed specifically to develop coaches. So our programming is meant to obviously give great classes to your members, but at the same time, develop your coaching staff, which means, hey, here's the progression you're going to use to coach this movement, but also here's why, and here's where you should look, and here are some good cues for that movement. So we've gotten that. We're working on an online course, and in our other endeavors that we have a great little mastermind group where we have coaches in there, and we interact with them via email and phone calls, and just help them develop.
Wow. That's so cool that you're putting yourself out there, helping so many coaches and box owners, and too, specifically with the programming, how to specifically not only just for athletes, but for coaches as well, to break the movements down and really bring out of them how to be the best coach that they can be. And so, Jason, with all of this, the things that you're doing with all these different companies and pursuits, how do you go about managing it all? It seems like there's got to be a lot on your plate on any given day. So how do you navigate that and manage that and not get overwhelmed or burnt out?
Well, I didn't say I don't do either of those, right? So, it's funny, when will this episode go up?
In a couple of weeks. So I believe the second week of April. So April 8th.
So second week of April. Hopefully at this time, if you're listening, you're no longer, self-quarantining yourself.
Right.
Or social distancing.
Yes.
But I've been joking around. I'm like, hey, turns out like one small change in my life and I'm self-quarantined. You know, I don't really. So, and what I mean by that is that, you know, I work hard. I work from my house. My wife and I live in Boulder now. So, you know, we work a lot, and you just have to find that balance and make sure you're not overdoing it, because like I was in 2006, completely burned out. But yeah, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort, but I think anyone that has found a job they love, you know, it's that cliche expression of find a job you love and never work a day in your life. I truly enjoy it. You know, yes, there are times I'd rather be laying on my couch watching The Office, but, you know, but I truly like this. I love talking to people about it, and I love sitting down on my computer. It's because I know ultimately the end goal is I'm helping somebody, and I have to change my mindset of I'm writing a MailChimp campaign to the mindset of somebody's going to find this and it's going to impact their lives. So I think if you just always remember that, and I do enjoy it. It's, you know, for me, it's still fitness, and I make sure to find my time to work out every day. I make sure, you know, currently, you know, my jiu-jitsu school is closed, which I think was a phenomenal decision on their end to just slow down the spread. So yeah, I'm home most of the day right now. I'm, you know, going to go work out after this call, but after that, it's a Saturday. I'm going to get back to work. This is what I enjoy doing.
Right. I mean, I love that. And it's true. If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And like you said, it's putting all the things out there and doing all the things that you're doing. It's, I mean, there's the saying too within the podcasting space. And like you said, you honestly never know who's listening. And if you can touch and impact that one person, then it's worth it. And clearly you've already impacted and touched so many people and are just figuring out new ways to extend that arm even further with impacting coaches directly and finding all these different niches that you've kind of grown into.
Yes, that's what brings me a ton of joy, you know, and to these listeners as well. Like if anything I've said is impactful, I'm sure you'll give out some sort of way to find me. It's absolutely not that hard these days, you know, but yeah, I mean, even if it's just, hey, I enjoyed listening to you and it made me think about this. That's all I want. It's not about, you know, well, you need to pay me for this. It's just what you said resonated, and I appreciate it. When I get, especially like Instagram, you get a DM like that because it's like, hey, they found you through another way, and I love that. You know, it used to be, hey, do the people I would hear from are the people I interacted with directly, and like you said, now it's people that heard you on this or I read your book and I loved it and it made me, you know, change the way I do something. It's just so rewarding. I wish for everyone that they have a job that they get to go home at night and feel like they live a rewarding life.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I mean, to that point, one of the coolest things was I hadn't heard of Best Hour of Their Day podcast before. So today is Saturday, before Monday of this week. A member of my gym, she was at her level 1, and I guess somebody had said something about the Best Hour of Their Day podcast, and she told me about it. And I've literally binge listened to Best Hour of Their Day podcast this whole week. And I reached out to you earlier this week, and we were able to set up an interview for today. And it's just so cool, one, how accessible you are and willing to share your story, share your journey, continue to put yourself out there. But then two, like you said, that communication, it's that willingness to reach out and say, wow, this impacted me. I want to have a conversation, or I just really wanted to let you know that what you're doing is helping people and changing their lives.
What gym do you go to?
I go to CrossFit Paragon. It's in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, yeah. No, they probably met Fern. They probably met Fern because he's in Virginia, so he was probably working down there, Jason Fernandez. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's great. That's exactly what I love. You know, every seminar I work, inevitably someone will come up to me that says, "Oh, we listen to Best Hour of Their Day," and it's like, you know, because you know it in the podcast world, you're just hitting record and putting it out there. Mm-hmm. You know, yes, I can see how many downloads we get, but I don't know who those people are. So when you show up somewhere, you know, or I was at Wadapalooza in February, and I'm literally walking around with Camille, a games champion, you know, one of the most famous and influential people in the CrossFit space, and people are coming up to me, and I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Man. And you're right. I mean, it's putting that face to the name. So having people, one, like you said, you hit record and you're putting content out there and you're hoping somebody's listening. You're hoping that you're touching someone who really needs to hear what you have to say or what your guests have to say. But you never know unless somebody tells you or reaches out and says, hey, this specific episode or this story, this guest's journey really was what resonated with me and helped me. So thank you. So you're right. It's so cool. And the idea that we are able to do that with putting out audio, video content, social media, and reach people in all these new ways. It's a powerful platform that we have. And then we're, using it to the best of your abilities. Like you said, putting out that positive message and being that light to people. So that's, in everything that you're doing, it's clear that that is the pursuit and path that you're on.
Well, thanks. I appreciate hearing that.
Of course, Jason. And so you already touched on this question. Ironically, it's the final question that I ask all of my interviewees. And Jason, just looking back on this incredible life that you've led and pushing forward, looking to help more and more people like you're doing, and just kind of looking in that and all the goals that you want to achieve. My final question is, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, like I said, I think ultimately what I want to be remembered for is just impacting other people's lives in a positive way. And for some people, whether that's weight loss or I encourage them to quit their job and follow their passion, that's what I want. I've probably told, if not hundreds, dozens of people to quit their job, and they look at me like I'm crazy. And then, whether it's weeks, months, or years later, they're like, thank you for telling me that. And, life is short, and you shouldn't spend time doing things you don't enjoy, but especially not, working a job you don't like for 8 hours a day. If you're passionate about something, and you care about it, you will be successful. You just have to make that plunge.
Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. To learn more about our guest, check out the show notes at keepmovingforward.us. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date on all things coming out of the KMF Collective Studio. Always remember, you can beat the odds and go the distance if only you keep moving forward.